Before I forget to mention it, there are a couple of points I should make about the visualization of the form. The first is that the way that we're viewing it right now is with faceted faces. And we can turn on a smoother version of the bunny, which will be nicer for the purposes of display here. If we hold down the space bar, that will bring open this panel. And if we click on the button on the far left here, that will give us these smooth normals. And if we want to change it back to the faceted representation of those faces, we can just click on that. If we want to even make the polygons display so that they're even easier to see, we can click on W, which turns on wireframe. Now, let's go ahead and add some additional geometry to the form. So we'll click on Meshmix up top, and I'll drag in a sphere. But this time, instead of dropping it off to the side of the bunny, I'm going to drop it on the bunny. And you'll see that we have a couple of handles here. The first is the one in the center. So if we drag that, it actually moves it along the surface of the bunny. If we drag on this one, click and drag, it will make that sphere bigger or smaller. If we look in the context menu up top, you'll see that we could here change the dimension of it. We could also offset the sphere so that it goes further into or out of the bunny. Now, also notice that under composition mode, we can change some different settings. So if we click on append to mesh, let's go ahead and accept that. And if we press on the eyeball here in the object browser, by the way, if you don't see the eyeball, you might just have to grab this lower right corner and drag out. So let's click on that eyeball to temporarily kind of change the display of the bunny. And you'll see that we have now overlapping faces so that the sphere extends down into the bunny and the bunny extends out into the sphere. Now, let's actually break that sphere off away from the bunny and get rid of it. The way we can do that is, you see right now we still have that torus hanging around. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. If I push the delete key, that'll get rid of it. I think it might be X on a Mac if you want to get rid of something, or you can click on the trash can down at the bottom. So the sphere that we just brought in was appended to the mesh, so it's on the same object browser layer. But we can break that sphere off into its own separate layer by going to Edit and Separate Shells. So if we click on that, you can see in the object browser we now have the bunny separate from the sphere. And we could undo what we just did if we want by pressing Control-Z, or another way I can show you to do that, to put them back on the same layer, is if we have the bunny selected and hold Shift down and click on the sphere and then go to Combine in the context menu. That will put the bunny and the sphere on the same layer. Something I should point out that just happened here is you see how the bunny's color changed. That's because the bunny is now its own poly group. And what that means is that Meshmixer just assigned all of these faces to a single face group so that we can easily select them if we want going forward. And so the way that this could be helpful is if we press S on the keyboard to bring open our brush selection tool, and then start to select on the bunny by just clicking and dragging. You'll see that we've grabbed a few faces, and now if we double click on that selection area, it will select all of the faces of that polygroup. Now let's suppose that we really don't want that polygroup. We want to just have it all be gray like the sphere. We can get rid of this polygroup by going to Modify and Clear Face Group. Oop. You know what, I think I did the wrong thing. Let's try it again. So select, double click, modify. Oh, I'm sorry, I clicked on the create face group instead. Clear face group. Okay. Now, so we looked at how we can drag a sphere onto the bunny. We can do that with append to mesh. Now, what if instead we choose create new object? What happens then? You can see how now we have the bunny and the other sphere on one layer. but the part that we just dragged in is its own unique layer in the object browser. Let's try another option. So if we drag in the sphere, but this time we will choose Boolean Union. What that's going to do, accept, what that's going to do is if we press Control V, Control V is a shortcut to turn on the visibility or turn off or on the visibility of the object. So look what happened when we did Boolean Union. You see how it trimmed away the overlapping faces? So instead of allowing the sphere to extend down into the other, and for this one to extend up into the new one, it cuts away all of that overlapping geometry. And we can do the opposite of that, which is we'll drag a sphere on, and this time we'll choose Boolean subtract, accept. And what that does is it cuts a hole into the bunny and the shape of that dropped geometry.